Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, and today I'll be reading a multi-character extruder by me, so let's get into it. Giyuu Tomioka. This is something that Giyuu does absentmindedly and probably does not focus on it, and it's probably also something that he doesn't realize he's doing. So sometimes the two of you would be just sitting down and doing your own thing, and his hand would just trail down to your thigh, tracing it. And maybe it was comforting for him, but it would always make you blush. Look at it for a bit, before quickly turning away because you knew if Guy noticed and got embarrassed, he probably wouldn't do this so easily again. And you like it. I like it when he's affectionate with you in even the smallest of ways. His touch always brought comfort, and actually caressing your thigh was something you didn't expect from him. Soon enough, it became his replacement for touching your hand or holding it. He would just have his hand on your thigh as a way to assure himself of your presence, and sometimes he would give it a little squeeze. But you don't say anything because you know the moment you do, he will get out of dreamland and notice what he's doing, and then say bye bye to you ever doing that again. So be careful. Rengoku. Actually, Rengoku would probably let this in public whenever you were sitting next to each other in a meeting or in a restaurant. It doesn't matter to him because no one was going to look at him underneath the table and see him caressing your thighs. But that was not the only dimension to it, and sometimes you have to remind him that just by elbowing him sometimes, because the amount of times he does it and catches you off guard completely, making you blush and makes you kind of just a mess in front of everyone is a little bit too much, and maybe you should stop surprising you. But eventually, you give up on asking him to stop because it's such a habit for him, since he does it a lot at home that he doesn't notice. His hand just automatically finds its place on your thigh, like it's meant to be there. And hey, maybe it was. I mean, who knows? But to be honest, whenever you're home, he would also kiss your thighs. So at least he wasn't doing that in public, right? He was being very good at restraining his urges. Obanai. Obanai is actually very shy about this, and the first time he does it, it takes a lot of courage from him. And a lot of planning too. At first, he just kind of watches you and doesn't know what to do, but he feels the urge to touch your thighs. But then, he feels like maybe it's inappropriate, or maybe you wouldn't like it. And besides, how would you react? Would you tease him for it? He doesn't want any of this. He just wants to touch your thighs. Just a little bit. And after a lot of planning, he finally actually gets to it. And he does it by stargazing with you. It was the best way to distract you. Considering that TVs were a city thing and Abare was not really into TVs and he doesn't know how they work. They were still new. So this was quite good, actually. And then, after that, he just trails his hand sadly to your thigh. And when I turn to look at him, he's blushing. But he doesn't once turn and look back at you. So you just settle to look at the stars, admiring them. And also, admiring Obanai's bravery to try something new for once. He was cute, and he was trying his absolute best. You could definitely see that. Sanemi. Sanemi's definition of this was quite different to everyone else's. And why, you might ask? Well, even though he does the normal, touch your thigh thing at home, he might actually be a little bit more intense in public. And by intense, I don't even mean it in a romantic way. I mean it in a he makes it too obvious way. So, he only does it actually if someone's staring at you or bothering him about you, because it's his way of showing that you are absolutely not up for taking, and that you already had a boyfriend. So, what he does is probably actually slap your thigh instead of just touching it, which is more, well, more obvious. And also, it really brought you too much attention. But is it its goal of just making other people too afraid to even look at you when he just gave them that menacing look? You know, paired with the way he was being so overly affectionate and possessive. So, it worked, I guess. I mean, there are definitely better methods, but Sanemi has not considered them yet. Tengen. Oh, Tengen actually does this with no shame whatsoever. This was like a regular occurrence to him. Something he doesn't need to think about, and something that he's not really conscious of. But when you're in public and he wants to embarrass you a little bit, especially if you're in a formal setting and talking to someone, he will just pinch your thigh just a little bit, and that would make you blush immediately, stumbling over your words for a few seconds before you regain your composure. After all, you're used to Tengen pulling things like this on you, and you're just used to also having to fight this back. So, even though it was a little difficult, it wasn't the worst, especially since you're accustomed to it. Next time, when you want to surprise you a little bit more, he will have to do something even more extreme, which you hope he doesn't. Muichiro. Muichiro actually, the first time he did it, he wanted to hold your hand, but he was just so lost in thought that he didn't notice that he was touching your thigh instead. But you held his hand, letting his hand be on your thigh, with your fingers intertwined. And it felt kind of good. So sometimes, when he wasn't focused enough to hold your hand, or when your hands are really busy, he would just settle for caressing your thigh, or just putting his hand over it, tracing it gently, and sometimes he even leans down to sprinkle some soft little kisses on it. He's the cutest, most adorable baby boy, and he really loves you and loves showing his affection to you. He wants you to feel loved and know that he cares about you after all, and he's not ashamed of showing it. He's just more hesitant and still trying to find out the best way to show you his affection in ways that would not embarrass him so much. And he was getting there, and you were so proud of his progress.